So I've been hearing more about domain agnostic approaches as almost being sort of the first step to get your arms around everything you can get your arms around somewhat readily across a platform, and to start drawing correlations and start discovering some root causes. What is it that you see in, and I'd love to hear sort of from banking, from telco into SaaS, what some of the experiences you've been seeing around this sort of domain agnostic approach.
Yeah, so the domain approach the ability for what you interface with, automation piece, the workflows, etc. They are very domain oriented, right? And that depends on the specific application, the specific IT environment, etc. However, when you look at AI ops, ability to manage, monitor applications, and then fix problems, identify problems, and fix them before they happen, the domain part on that aspect is actually not that critical, because you need these different pieces. Piece number one, you need to get metrics right about the applications and infrastructure. That can be obtained by whatever tool is out there. So earlier, you had APM tools where they said you have to put my agent, and then only you can get the metrics that you need.
Mm-hmm.
The approach that we have taken is, and then many others are taking nowadays, is you don't need our own agent. You can put our agent if you don't have one. However, if you already have ways to collect data, we will just simply put a connector and ingest that into us. So the mantra there is, if you collect data once, you should never collect that again. You should be able to use it, right? So that's the one of the principles that we go with. So whether it's, if you look at AWS or Azure, they have
Mm-hmm.
monitoring tools in the cloud they offer, right? CloudWatch and App Insights in Azure, CloudWatch and AWS.
Mm-hmm.
We can input that data readily into our system. Same thing goes for other, if there's a network monitoring tool, we can actually ingest data from that. So the point is, ingestion data is there, and if there are logs coming from Splunk, we can take that in. If there are alerts that are stored in ServiceNow, we can actually ingest that stuff, right? So the key part of domain agnosticity is being able to get data from whatever source, wherever it's available, if it's available. Otherwise, you should have a method to go and fetch it. That's one. Second is, there is a lot of transfer learning approaches that we can apply. One part of machine learning is called transfer learning, where a particular type of application, it doesn't have to be the same vertical. If you know that, hey, when you're running high transaction volume applications in the cloud as a SaaS service, for example, here are the metrics that matter. In fact, we end up collecting hundreds and hundreds of metrics. In reality, what really happens is, 5 to 10 metrics matter. Other things are really, placebo, right? They don't really have any effect. So if you know from one customer that, these 5 metrics are the ones that really matter, you start with those 5 metrics, as opposed to starting with boiling the entire, Pacific Ocean, and then, going to a pint of water, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so that's one thing. Number two piece is, what do you do with, fixing a problem once you identify a problem? So if you can discover the topology, it's domain agnostic. It doesn't matter which domain that you're in, right? And then if you're also able to go from on-prem to cloud to SaaS, that's what we have done. We have multiple
Mm-hmm.
deployment models, which means that you're domain agnostic, right? It doesn't matter if you're a bank. Typically, they used to be on, even now, bulk of the key applications in banks are on-prem. Whereas if you look at healthcare companies, they've started putting a lot of the applications to the cloud. If you look at Kaiser Permanente here, they've been working with IBM and now with Microsoft, putting many of the applications in the cloud. Or if you look at SaaS companies today, where they run many of them run a mixed infrastructure. They have their own IT environment where they actually run their stuff, while they use one or more cloud providers to increase capacity, or to burst, right, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
So in all of that, it's about getting the right metrics, getting the right topology, getting the right alerts. Then the system can figure out. But after that, what do you do with it? What is your philosophy of updating things? How things are done? What rule books do you follow? What is a process for incident management or problem resolution? those processes are very domain centric. So that's
Mhm.
where the domain part comes into play. But from the AI ops point of view itself, we want to be more and more domain agnostic today.